Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimur, Shamil. Prime Minister Imran Khan was on his two-day visit to Turkey, where he landed in Konya and went to the shrine of great Sufi saint Hazrat Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. And this was a very interesting gesture because Prime Minister Imran Khan has been talking about Sufism as well. And there at the shrine, he talked about himself reading Jalaluddin Rumi, his teachings, and also how Rumi has connected all the religions in the world, and that is what also Prime Minister Imran Khan said in Konya while on his visit to Turkey. Prime Minister landed in Konya, interestingly. He went to the Sufi shrine and then he went to meet the president of Turkey, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and he met other Turkish officials. Both countries talked about bilateral cooperation, trade, economy, security for that matter, and also specifically Prime Minister Imran Khan and President Erdogan. They talked about how Turkey and Pakistan can work on the areas of mutual interest. He talked about how Pakistan can learn and invite investment from Turkey in the housing scheme, because that is what Prime Minister Imran Khan has been focusing on for the last couple of months. And the second thing, very important thing, was the health facilities. Prime Minister Imran Khan talked about the health facilities and the way Turkey is practicing different reforms, and they have implemented reforms regarding health in Turkey. Today we are going to discuss about this and Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Turkey, and also Pakistan's joint team on FATF is visiting Sydney, and then they will be meeting, they are today meeting the FATF team, both the Pakistani team, joint committee on the FATF, and the FATF team would be discussing terms and conditions on how Pakistan can be pulled out of the grey list of FATF. Pakistan will be working on a report which would be presented on the 14th of this month. To discuss this, we have our special guest in the studios. Our first guest is Ambassador Tajammul Altaf, a renowned senior foreign policy expert, former diplomat. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our second guest is Dr. Abid Abbasi. He is a renowned expert on Pakistan's foreign policy and also on Pakistani politics. Welcome to the show, Dr. Abbasi. Mr. Altaf, starting with Prime Minister's visit to Turkey, and this is very interesting that he landed in Konya. And Konya is the city of the renowned great Sufi saint Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. How do you see this gesture? Because we have Sufis in Pakistan, big names, Sufi shrines in Pakistan, and then we have Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi in Konya. How do you see this gesture of landing in Konya and going to the Sufi shrine?
Taimur, Shamil, thank you so very much for inviting me. This is our first program in 2019. So I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to wish you and PTV World team and your viewers all the very best for 2019 and beyond. Coming to Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Turkey, this was, of course, a visit which started with a very great gesture going to a Sufi saint, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. And you will bear with me that Prime Minister Imran Khan has definitely got a special bent of mind towards religion now. And normally he starts his visit from that sort of an activity where he can go to and pay homage to great personalities of Islam. You may recall that first visit of Prime Minister to Saudi Arabia and second visit to Saudi Arabia started from Medina. He first went to Roza Rasul, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And other than this religious sanctity and Sufism in our part of the world and in the subcontinent, that carries its historical roots as well. And we believe that Islam was spread to the subcontinent through Sufis coming from the Central Asia. So in our relationship, Sufis have got a very special place. Not only this, but also you will agree that we look at spread of Islam, apart from Arabs coming to our part of the world, to Multan and Sindh, Central Asian Sufis brought a message of fraternity, love and affection for all.
Oh, right.
And one more point which is significantly important in this whole debate is, and we should not forget that Pakistan and Turkey do carry very important historical bonds of relationship based on our Islamic solidarity. And Pakistan was not in the being that time, but Muslims of the subcontinent extended their full support and hand of support to the Turks at the end of the Ottoman Empire when they were looking for even financial recourse. So in that way, there are different layers where one can justify that Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit starting from Konya does carry a very significant symbolic gesture which he wanted to convey to the Turkish leadership. And from that point onward, he met the Turkish leadership and started his visit, as usual.
Dr. Abbasi, this gesture of going to the Sufi shrine, even politically, is very important because even in diplomacy, you want people of Turkey and people of Pakistan to know the importance of culture, the importance of religion, the importance of Sufism for that matter, and how Mr. Tajammul just rightly said that the message is tolerance, peace and love. And that is what is required primarily in Pakistan and in Turkey, rather in the whole world. How do you see this gesture in the backdrop of diplomacy and politics?
Thank you very much, Taimur Shah. You very well said that this Sufism, actually, if we look back into the history, as Ambassador Tajammul Sahab said, that Pakistan, he named one city, the Multan, but there are so many other cities of Pakistan where those Sufis, coming from various other areas, Central Asians, which we also call the Turk nation in the olden time, if we associate all those Central Asian states with the Turkish Empire. Right. Now the remains or the shrines or some of the Sufism is prevailing, or some of the legacies of those Sufism are in Pakistan, or for that matter in South Asia or in Turkey. Rest of the Muslim world not having that much, legacy of those Sufism. Secondly, Imran Khan has consistently been, as Ambassador Sahab said, that he was bent towards some sort of religious norms and some sort of Sufism. He has consistently been mentioning many Sufis. For that matter, he has consistently mentioned while addressing at various occasions when he was launching his campaign, or whether the agitation campaign before the election campaign, he talked a lot about Allama Iqbal, who was also influenced by the Sufism, or equating Jalaluddin Rumi, the teachings of Jalaluddin Rumi, or the influence of Jalaluddin Rumi on the teachings of Iqbal, or the poetry of Iqbal, or the philosophy of Allama Iqbal. So that is very much, some sort of relations between these two Sufi saint and the poet. If for that matter, some of the people do consider Allama Iqbal as also a saint. He was a philosopher, or he has adopted the posture of a saint while giving the lessons to the youth through his poetry and through his writings. So this similarity influenced a lot the people of Pakistan and the people of Turkish, creating a fraternity among them.
We'll continue our discussion on Pakistan and Turkey relations and Prime Minister's visit to Turkey. After this break, stay with us. Welcome back. We are discussing Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Turkey, where he met the Turkish officials and President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Both countries talked about bilateral relations, trade, economy, security, investment, development, and all these things. And we are going to discuss about all these important issues with our guest, Ambassador Altaf, talking about Prime Minister Imran Khan's visit to Turkey. He emphasized on many issues, and President Erdogan and Prime Minister Imran Khan, they had a press briefing and they talked about several issues. We are going to discuss about them step by step. They talked about the core national interest issues relating to core national interest. Interestingly, this time, Prime Minister also said that both Pakistan and Turkey would also be working on counter-terrorism, for that matter, because Turkey has been supporting Pakistan in that area as well, on Afghanistan especially, because Heart of Asia conference was initiated by Turkey. How do you see Pakistan and Turkey working on Afghanistan issue? Because this has been an issue for Pakistan for the last 17 years.
Taimur, it was a meeting between the two leaders during which they covered almost every topic and subject of bilateral relations, regional and international relations. And a joint statement was issued at the end of the visit, which say it was a very special relationship, heart-to-heart relationship between the two countries, where you feel so comfortable and you can go and talk your heart. So apart from all other points, the salient points which came up during the visit, you mentioned terrorism, yes. The two leaders underlined their abiding commitment to fight against terrorism in its all forms and manifestations.
Both have been victims of terrorism as well.
Because our two countries had been bad victims of terrorism. Not only this, but of course we also understand that Turkey has taken a very clear stance on presence of Fatehullah Gulen in United States of America, and Turkey has associated his activities in the United States of America with terrorism.
Right.
I know he was a philanthropist, he was a very strong businessman, a religious leader as well, a teacher as well. And what happened at one point in time that he went against the policies of Tayyip Erdogan when he was the prime minister and subsequently when he became president. And it was such a vocal and harsh criticism coming from Fatehullah Gulen that apart from all efforts being made by Turkey to bring him back, this access was denied. So it has become an irritant now between United States of America and Turkey. But Turkey takes it very seriously, and Pakistan has already given their full support against the terrorist organization of Fatehullah Gulen, that we will stand with Turkey. And then of course, as you mentioned, that Afghanistan now, every country is talking about future peace process. You start from the United States of America, regional powers, China is there, Turkey is there, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan itself, and that shuttle diplomacy is now going on. And we understand that United States of America very clearly wants to resolve the situation in Afghanistan through political negotiations, and they have used all other means which are not coming to fruition. And at the end of the day, they strongly feel that dialogue and political dialogue and negotiations is the only way out. And Turkey is very much partner in that effort to bring Afghanistan on the negotiating table. And Turkey being a very important regional country, both in Asia and Europe, is trying to play its cards in such a way that they also stand behind this political settlement of Afghanistan. So our two leaders had very clear understanding that Turkey, Pakistan and others will play their due role and significant role in the resolution of Afghan problem and return of durable peace in that country.
And both are working on it, certainly. Dr. Abbasi, talking about governance and economy, Prime Minister Imran Khan has been focusing on these two things specially. Even when he was on his trip to Saudi Arabia, China, and other countries, he emphasized on economy and he emphasized on governance. In Turkey, he said that he would like the Turkish businessmen and the government also to come and invest in Pakistan. He also said that he would like to know more about how Turkey has been working on the housing schemes in Turkey, and they have provided a lot of people with housing schemes, and also on providing people with better health facilities. So these two areas, housing and health facilities, how do you see that?
Just in a few years, I think about 6 or 7 years, Turkey has constructed about 2 million new houses for the underprivileged classes in Turkey. And the similar, sort of notion Imran Khan has given in Pakistan when he, given his manifesto. He talked about 5 million houses for the for the low paid or the underprivileged people of Pakistani society. If we go back into the recent past, Turkey, we have been we have been getting inspiration from the Turkish model in Pakistan. For instance, the transportation during the previous government of Mia Shahbaz Sharif, they consistently been visiting Turkey, and they got some inspiration, they got some sort of a lesson of the transportation, the modernization of transportation
City
in Turkey.
management and all that, right?
Definitely the sanitation and cleanliness and the other sort of areas. So Turkey, one thing we should acknowledge that Tayyip Erdogan has given a softer kind of revolution in Turkey. He has adopted some measures out of the box with a modern approach, getting away from the traditional kind of the system
towards
of
economy
governance and similar kind of claims, similar kind of posture Imran Khan has got in Pakistan. So it's very natural that, and I think it's a very positive thing that Imran Khan has got some sort of affiliation, and he showed that he would learn something from the governance or from the infrastructure development and the development in other areas, as you mentioned in health sector, a very sophisticated kind of a system they have introduced in Turkey to give the health policy to the underprivileged classes, and similar kind of thing Imran Khan has promised to the nation, and he has been talking about that. And to get some inspiration, to get some sort of knowledge of those achievements of the Turkish model or the Turkish government, I think it's very positive that if the government of Pakistan could get some sort of input from the experience of Turkey and to launch all those sort of in health sector or in the housing sector or either in the city
Agriculture, they have mentioned agriculture. They have mentioned a lot of other things as well.
City management or the urban management system. I think these are good examples just in our neighborhood in Turkey, and if we could get some sort of knowledge from them, it would be very much productive for Pakistan.
Productive for Pakistan. And Ambassador Altaf, talking about education and culture, these are, I think, very strong areas in which Turkey is working. These are the two, I would say, strengths of Turkish society. Education, because they have been spending a lot on education. They have been improving their schools and their educational system. And the way they have been projecting their culture, interestingly, that is very important. That is also very interesting. Prime Minister Imran Khan and President Erdogan, they also talked about education and culture. How do you see that? What can Pakistan, and in what ways Pakistan can cooperate with Turkey in this area?
Taimur, our two countries have definitely a very promising prospects of having some sort of very tangible cooperation in the field of health, agriculture, and culture, of course. These three areas were identified during the visit. And Turks are very good in opening schools, not only in Turkey but abroad as well. After earthquake in Pakistan, they did a lot of rehabilitation and reconstruction work, and they also built schools, mosques, and houses. And culture, you will bear with me that even Turkish drama, Turkish movies are very much popular,
in Pakistan.
And I mean,
even more, I'm sorry to cut you, more popular than the Pakistani
drama.
Those were very much familiar in South Asia.
So all these are our combined points where we can cooperate more and more, and our two countries are poised to go in that direction. And Turkey in its own will definitely be extending its full support in all such projects, because I observe one thing which is very important to understand at this point in time. After China, Turkey is the only country which come to rescue of Pakistan in the best and the worst circumstances. This is but absolutely true. And even during this visit, I was noticing the vocabulary and lexicon which is used between Pakistan and China was also used in our relationship with Turkey very strongly. Like we now say, our time-tested friendship with Turkey. Our strategic partnership with Turkey are the key to our future. And then, of course, our two countries have evolved a high-level Pakistan-Turkey Strategic Cooperation Council. And the two leaders decided that now we will strengthen and enhance the activities of this council in such a way that all areas of bilateral cooperation are covered under the regular meetings of this. And the next meeting is going to be held, this will be the 6th meeting in Pakistan,
Right.
Sometime in 2019.
Right. And you rightly said, Ambassador Altaf, that Pakistan and Turkey are time-tested friends, and they have been through with each other through thick and thin. Dr. Abbasi, talking about this very point, Turkey has stood with Pakistan even in the situation of FATF and NSG, as you rightly said.
The only country.
So how do you see that? FATF and NSG, nuclear supply group as well.
Turkey, some of the people were thinking and wrongly thinking that the Turkish leadership having some personal relation with our former rulers in Pakistan, but the time has proved it wrong. Turkey has supported Pakistan in everything and thin, as you mentioned, FATF or the
Nuclear supply group.
military supply group, or even the welcome or the gesture which the Turkish leadership has shown to the newly elected Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, that shows that Turkey has a relation with the people of Pakistan, with Pakistan not for some sort of specific people or specific person, but as the Turkish, very rightly Ambassador Sahab said that as the notion and the words used by the Turkish leadership for the friendship with Pakistan, those were very much similar to the Chinese or the leadership have been consistently using for the friendship with Pakistan. So the friendship or the support of Turkey is with the people of Pakistan, and this successful tour of Prime Minister Imran Khan has testified that.
Right. Ambassador Altaf, Pakistani team on FATF is visiting Sydney, and they are on their 3-day visit. They will be meeting the FATF team over there. Both the Pakistani team and the FATF team, they would be having conversation and discussions on the terms of conditions of Pakistan working on the FATF thing, and how Pakistan, and also on the progress on money laundering and terror financing. This very issue is very important to Pakistan, certainly, because Pakistan has been fighting this war on terror. Pakistan has lost so many innocent people, innocent lives in this 17 years long war. Pakistan has been fighting most notorious terrorist organizations in the region, I would say, in the world for that matter. But this FATF thing is an issue certainly for Pakistan. How do you see this meeting that is going on today in Sydney?
Well, this is going to be a very important meeting, and this 12-member delegation is headed by our finance secretary, and there are also representatives of Central Bank, State Bank of Pakistan, FIA, FBR, NECTA, and they have already sent a complete report on the implementation of FATF demands, observations to electronically to Sydney, and now they will be discussing in letter and spirit what exactly Pakistan has achieved after June 2018 when this whole thing was started. And Turkey was the only country which initially stood with Pakistan, and after a long time, of course, China also came on board. So point is this FATF inquiry, investigation on terror financing or smuggling or money laundering are very important issues for the entire world. But you will bear with me, I am going to provoke you and Abid Sahab also. No one really talked about that sort of financing 2 decades ago. When the situation in Afghanistan was quite fluid, and United States of America were having their own agenda to defeat communism and to push out the former Soviet Union from that part of the world, and all that CIA money was coming non-stop. But now
Even from the drugs or
drugs,
from, the weapons
drug money,
smuggling.
number one, drug money, and weapons coming. Now, because of new interests, vested interest, and nuances coming in, focus has been put on FATF thing, and this is also for me to an extent some sort of political lever or economic lever to project or to exert pressure on a country like Pakistan, which of course had got its own history of fighting against terrorism.
Right.
But the problem is very much there on the ground. And need is whatever we could do to resolve or satisfy our international interlocutors, especially FATF team. Our cards should be open. Whatever we have achieved in the implementation of or controlling money laundering, or stopping that black money, or terror financing, and they have come up with a brilliant report, and they are going to discuss it in this meeting and other meeting which is going to be held in a couple of months in May,
Probably in September.
May, and the last meeting in September, where they will be coming up with all justifications what Pakistan have done to control. And not only this, but what is the future of that sort of activities and how we can cooperate with the international organizations.
Right. This is interesting, Dr. Abbasi. That officials, Pakistani officials earlier, they have been equating FATF with Afghanistan, with United States failure, let's say they call it, in Afghanistan, because 17 years on, Afghanistan is still an issue. And earlier, Pakistani officials have been saying that since US wanted Pakistan to do more, and the message from the Pakistani side was very clear that Pakistan would not become a scapegoat in the region, and Pakistan would not fight anybody else's war on Pakistani soil. So this thing, FATF, was initiated to put some sort of political pressure, as Ambassador Altaf was saying, on Pakistan. Do you see it that way? A pressure as a pressure tactic?
Of course, I do endorse, the Ambassador Saab's point of view. Because Pakistan, when this great game is being played on the Sahel, our Sahel and the Sahel surrounding us, then these kind of, Pakistan is not the only player over there. Pakistan is actually the victim of all those conspiracies, all those actions are taken by the global powers. There are so many agencies, secret agencies are working in this part of land. They have their own interest. As the Pakistani, the report which was electronically sent to FATF, Terror Financing Risk Assessment Report, that says that there are so many other agencies working in the region. They are using this sort of black money for their own interest, and blame is being put on Pakistan. As you very rightly said, that this can be a arm twisting kind of
Pakistan,
action against Pakistan, because now the Pakistan is needed, because the new government of Pakistan has categorically said, our armed forces, the leaders, they are all on the same page that Pakistan would not be able to pay more sacrifices for the war, which is not actually the war of Pakistan. We have already sacrificed about 70,000 people, the innocent people of Pakistan, in very different cities of Pakistan. The armed forces of Pakistan have given great sacrifices. We have, bear the burden of about $123 billion, which is a very hefty amount if we keep into consideration our own exchequer, our own budget. So now, actually, this FATF kind of saga is going against Pakistan to use Pakistan, or to put more pressure on Pakistan to get maximum, as you said, the do more, to bring the Afghan Taliban on the table, or to get some negotiation in the region in favor of those forces which are actually the key players in the region.
And interestingly, Mr. Altaf, that the members of the review committee of FATF, there are people from China and India as well, and Pakistan has certainly reservations on people from India being member of this committee, because we know that there are biases, and India and also perhaps US have been very active on this FATF list.
Naturally, we should be concerned because of presence of a few other actors in this whole process. And as very aptly has been pointed out by Dr. Abid Abbasi, This is some sort of arm twisting. This could be a political lever. This could be a pressure tactic. But we will certainly be coming with implementation part as well, where we have done 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and we really want to now come out of that gray list, and we don't want to go to blacklist. There will be pressure on us, but of course the leadership of this country under Prime Minister Imran Khan has very categorically conveyed a message to the United States of America. We are no more going to play the role of a hired gun. It was an interview given to Washington Post. And we know what are our sacrifices in the past, and we know what is our future now in this region, and what is our future with China and other countries, with Russia and Iran and others, and how strongly we can play that role.
And now, since US is withdrawing forces from Afghanistan, do you think that this FATF thing would still continue? Obviously it will, but US, let's say, stance on Pakistan, would that continue?
This pressure will remain there unless we come up with a clean slate to an extent, showing some progress sheet to the team, and we come up with certain arguments. Look, Pakistan is a big country having a long porous border, long coastal line, where you cannot choke or block each and every point for the movement of that sort of activities. And if we try to fence these borders, it will be a big issue, but which we have already started. And we have improved certain mechanisms on our entry-exit points, even our Afghanistan border and border with other countries. But you know, this is a long way to go. We will be coming up with convincing answers to an extent whichever we could achieve. Right. And wherever we need support of the international community, we will also be taking them on board. And now coming to the last part of your question, that after this announcement of withdrawal of 50% troops of
7,000 troops from Afghanistan.
7,000, I think this is the beginning of a long end again. United States of America took 17 years fighting this longest war of its history in Afghanistan and gaining nothing at the end of the day. This was failure of American policies. This was also failure of policies of a number of regional countries where we did not realize things on ground in their totality. Now, what is the future? It cannot be another lengthy war. And if it could not be a lengthy war, and the Taliban are an important factor, sorry, and how they could be engaged in that process of durable peace, they have certain demands. And Americans have very clear financial fatigue, which they are no more ready to continue. NATO countries have already backtracked, saying that we are not in a position to financially support defense package of paying 2% of our GDP. So there is an economic and military defense fatigue going on.
And you rightly pointed out, and this is something very unpredictable, Dr. Abbasi, that President Trump of the United States, he is not happy with any country in the region. He is not happy with India for that matter. Recently he said that India, Prime Minister Modi has not been doing enough. India has not been doing enough in Afghanistan, and they have just...
Sometimes he is not happy with some of the family members as well.
And I'm sure you will bear with me, he is also now facing the worst domestic pressure coming to Donald Trump himself.
And when he says that, we're talking about the regional countries, as Ambassador Altaf said, that President Trump is not happy with India, he's not happy with Russia for that matter, not with Pakistan, he recently said.
China.
Iran, of course, China. So all the countries in the region, and especially also not with the Afghan government. And this was a surprise when President Donald Trump announced that his administration would be pulling out troops, 7,000 troops from Afghanistan. A lot of people, even the Afghan officials, perhaps some of the American officials, they didn't know about this decision. So while there's so much uncertainty in the region, and then there are countries who are placing Pakistan on FATF list, how do you see this?
Pakistan, that country that has always remained, frontline allies of the this war on terror, of United States, or for that matter, the world coalition. You very rightly said that they have to, the think tanks in America and the decision makers in United States, they have to consider it, that how they can, open various kinds of hostile or the adverse kind of fronts against the U.S. Interest in the region. They have to recognize, they have to acknowledge the sacrifices of the countries given that, or they should take their policies keeping into fold the interest of the region as well. Otherwise, the regional cooperation or the alliance of the regional forces would be emerging. I would say there would be a possibility of a alliance of the regional forces, and that would be another force in the region.
And by the way, alliances are there.
yes.
Mr. Altaf,
Definitely there, but they would be
Pakistan,
more
China,
aggressive,
and Russia, Iran for that matter, these countries have been collaborating and cooperating.
Shanghai Cooperation
Shanghai
Organization,
Cooperation
ECO, and even D8, they are very much there to play their role.
So their role, and also there is this economic cooperation, trade cooperation, China-Pakistan economic corridor. Also regarding Afghanistan, that these countries are now there to fight the new terrorist organizations like TTP, Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, Daesh for that matter. So how these alliances, as Dr. Abbasi said, how do you see this?
Well, for me, the worst phase of terrorism has already passed. And now these are splinters, spread here and there, okay? And they will continue for quite some time, having their presence felt. But at the end of the day, they are going to die down soon, because worst has been seen by the world in the last 2-3 decades. So I take it in a very holistic way. These terrorist organizations are nurtured because of funding coming from ABC, XYZ. Once that funding is blocked, there is hardly any place for them to prosper. So now, if United States of America and its best allies, NATO countries, are having that economic fatigue, and all those forces which are supporting terrorist organizations are trying to change their direction towards some sort of cooperation and peace and stability and security and economic development. So naturally, these terrorist organizations will be wiping out, will be disappearing from the scene. And at the end of the day, in history books, there will be not chapters on terrorism or terrorist organizations. You and I will be lucky if we find 2-3 sentences or one small paragraph, what were these terrorist organizations. So I am very optimistic that we are now going towards a new future in the 21st century. These proxies, these terrorist organizations will be very much there on the surface for quite some time, but they are on natural decline, and they cannot sustain for a very long time. And there are economic factors behind that, there are reasons behind that, and all that economic fatigue which is being felt in Europe and America. Right. So at the end of the day, people will be thinking in some sort of cooperation, some sort of economic benefits, win-win situations, and that is possible only when these splinters are kept aside.
And also, since Asia is rising now, that
Yes.
is the only option, that we eliminate all these terrorist organizations.
Indeed.
And we work on better economy and trade. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Pleasure having you on the show. Ambassador Tajammul Altaf, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Abid, Abbasi, thank you for your time. Pleasure having you on the show. That's all from today's show, today's dialogue. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz.
बहुत अच्छा लगा आपको।